Welcome to Deco Guide, the only app designed to help you navigate your college and career journey in the quickest and most affordable way. This podcast is brought to you by EdTechity, dedicated to opening doors to higher education and career opportunities for all.
Hey y'all, welcome to our What Would You Do series, where I get to ask professionals unscripted questions about what they would do to overcome obstacles in college and beyond. Today we have Professor G to ask a series of questions. Hey Professor G, so what would you do if you're feeling the pressure from your family to be an engineer or a doctor, but you don't really think that that's the right path for you?
Ooh, good question. It's sometimes culturally, right? I got some students who belong to certain ethnicities that it is forced to go into the medical profession. Others, it's forced to go into like computer science, et cetera, et cetera. Without, disrespecting family, their cultures or anything like that, is at the end of the day, it's the student, right? That person that's in front of me, right? Or that person, if you're that student, at the end of the day, you're going to have to live, right, with these decisions you make in terms of your college and career for the majority of your life. And if you're making decisions based on other people, then they're not your decisions, right? And so sometimes it might work out great. For the most part, what I've seen is misery, right? Because they're being forced as opposed to passion. A couple things you can do, right? If your family's, very respectful to you and treats you well, right, and loves you, right, do your best to keep that relationship like that, right? Because that's a special relationship. And a lot of us don't get that, right? Including, myself, including other students that I see. There is no, kind of safety net. There is no really passion and goodness, good intent for those individuals. And again, some families are like that, right? If every family was perfect, then the divorce rate wouldn't be 70%. Right. And so we want to make sure, I want to make sure that we're not assuming that everything's great just because you get to go home to, people you call your family, because sometimes it's not. And so what I tell some of my students is, look, if this is your passion, then let's stay on it. If it's not your passion, then let's start sprinkling in your passion amongst the other stuff that you're being forced to do by mom or dad, right? Or by whoever that individual is. Now, so for example, I get a lot of students who are pre-medicine, right? Pre-med, because they're being forced into pre-med. They hate literally medicine, but they're being forced. So what I try to do with them, if I catch them early, is they still got to do math, they still got to do writing, they still got to do basic science, they still got to do the general ed classes, just like everybody else. So what we'll do is we'll ensure that the math and science classes are in line with the major, like pre-medicine, like biology, that kind of thing. But everything else is now in line with something that the student is passionate about, right? So then there'll be a lot of questions that I ask about, subjects that they like, how do they see themselves, in 10 years, in 20 years, where do they see themselves, what kind of organizations do they want to work for, etc. And what we'll do is we'll give them both, right? We'll give them their pre-medicine pathway, but also with a very close, maybe, business pathway, right? Maybe, communications and social work pathway, because they actually want to be a social worker, not a registered nurse or a medical doctor, right? Or a computer engineer. And so what we'll do is, a good counselor, what they will do is literally give you the best of both worlds, and then continuously encourage you that when you feel that time is to make the switch, then you make the switch, right? In most cases, we can provide you both. If you come to us and ask us and tell us about this situation early enough, you can end up graduating with 2 degrees that are actually, in line. One of them with your passion and one of them without, right? I'm going to give you a quick little story about a student of mine who the mom called me, right? And as a college counselor, we don't tell the parents anything. It's like, no, the student. And if the student isn't there, we're not going to tell you anything. And so we'll be nice, but we're not going to tell you what grades they're getting. We're not going to tell you what classes your kids are in. We're not going to, because your kid is an adult. You know what I mean? And so it's a privacy thing. So this mom's calling me, insisting that her son needs to go into medicine. And I've had that happen often. And I literally said, look, ma'am, I'm going to put him in the pathway that's going to give him potentially that route if he wishes, but at the same time, a pathway into what he's passionate about, which is music. Mm-hmm. Wow. She didn't want to hear that. she was like, what do you mean? And just conversing with the gentleman, with her son, it was clear, right? He is passionate about music, and she couldn't see a profitable pathway for him through that. So what I did, I said, is in the conversation, I asked him if she can be on the call so she can hear how I advise him, right? And so we started talking. I said, look, start doing your music program for these classes. You're still going to take math just in case you want to go into that medicine thing, whatever, mm-hmm. right? You got to do 2 science classes. So guess what? I'm going to put the chemistry class for the science. I'm going to put the biology class for the science, because everyone has to do those GE classes, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm also going to put music. And then when you finish the music program, the transfer program, I need you to start adding a minor in business. All of a sudden, we're having this virtual meeting. All of a sudden, you see mom like, huh? What do you mean? And I said, well, yeah, he's going to do music, but music is a business. And so he needs to understand business. And so he's going to be doing, music. He's going to be doing some sciences and math, but he's also going to do a minor in business when he transfers, right? He's going to transfer to university. He's going to major in music. He's going to have a minor in business. And she's all like, whoa, like, what do you mean? And I said, okay, just hold on, ma'am. I'm not done yet. And then I said, and then you're going to apply to a master's in business so that you get a master's degree in business, but your background is music. So now you're an expert in economics, you're an expert in business administration, you're an expert in music, and you have a bunch of classes in the science field that could potentially put you into medical school or dental school if you wish at the time. I just needed to buy him a few years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, mom just wanted to hear that there was some kind of financial outlook if he put a plan together that could help sustain the family. And of course, I worry about that too with my kids. You know what I mean? I want them to be financially independent, right? But I also want them to major in what they are passionate about. Right. So what the moral of the story is sometimes you do have to ignore mom and dad, right? Or that person that's trying to force you into a path. Other times you might want to combine them, help satisfy them a little bit, but also start doing some things that is going to make you profitable in the near future while you pursue that passionate major that you have. So there is no right answer to this. It all depends on the situation of the person. But at the end of the day, I'm always for the student. You tell me what you want to major in that you're passionate about, and I'm going to put you on that pathway, right? Regardless of the pressure you're receiving from anywhere else.
Thank you, Professor G. That was great.
Thank you for tuning into Techo Guide, the app focused on bringing you tools and content to help you make better decisions about school, life, and career. We hope this episode has inspired you to pursue and excel in your own educational and career journey. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share.